Welcome to Raw Radio.
Yeah, we're live.
And we're live. I almost forgot my microphone.
You do need a microphone. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe
I don't know.
Maybe
I could just yell loud enough.
No, just keep talking
to
without the
yours.
microphone. Like, we don't have to listen to you.
Make some people happy,
No,
I'm sure.
no, not really. No, we're good.
All right, we're good. Let's get started.
Talk about big boys.
Victor Hugo. Yeah, I felt at some point like maybe he was getting mad at us for talking about it so much. But his nickname's the Mountain, so he's going to have to get used to people talking about how big he is.
But you know what? This is this conversation was very interesting for me particularly because often we think the guys who are bigger, stronger, they have to work less in jiu-jitsu. They have this physical attribute that is working in their favor, and gravity is just adding as additional benefits to them, and they have the upper hand. They have they pull the winning card. The nature is on their side. However you want to treat this, they have the physical components to be more successful when it comes to fighting because of their size and strength. But yet Victor talks almost the entire conversation was indirectly and directly focused on him having almost no expectations of the results that he is seeing with his success. He is more focused on a work ethic and a work as a process,
Right.
versus the result that comes from it.
Yeah.
Did you get the same vibe?
I did, and I think, don't be confused. No expectations is not the same thing as low expectations. He has I think, probably high expectations for himself, but he's not talking about this competition coming up.
Good point.
You know what I mean? And so what he means, I think what he was trying to say, and he also talked a lot about things come natural for me. I think that having no expectations in the result, but still putting in the work that is going to get you a positive result is what he's talking about.
Right.
And go ahead.
I want to interject to clarify myself.
Yeah.
No expectations in terms of the result. He has very high expectations when it comes to the work that it takes,
Right.
that he needs to do.
Yeah.
And that's a very different point of anchoring the thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to work hard as much as he can. He's going to be there 2-3 times a day, work like a mule. But his goal is not to win. His goal is to work hard, and he knows that win will come if the work is complete.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, how many people that we've talked to that are world champions or Olympians know that if they work harder than the next guy, it's going to pay off.
Well, and actually, while we were talking to Victor, Travis Stevens, came up in that conversation, and I kind of rewinded in my mind the conversation we've had with him a while back now. But one of the things that Trevor was talking about was, you might not be the best. You might not have you might not be the most skilled, but you definitely could be the hardest working guy in the room. Mm-hmm. And if you stick around long enough, that could be enough for you to get to the top.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I see it a lot with kids, with a little kid that is smaller than everybody else, that is maybe not as athletically gifted as another kid in the class. But the ones that work hardest are the ones that have the most success in class, Mm-hmm. And I think that, backtracking a little bit, going back to trusting in the process, whether you're competing at worlds like he is, or if you're just trying to get better at jiu-jitsu, you got to trust in, showing up. He talked about being consistent, whether you're just 2 days a week or 2 times a day, just being consistent.
Yeah.
Trusting in the process. Not focusing on that short-term goal of, shit, I'm not getting any better at this, or why aren't I getting better? I should be better.
Right.
Don't focus on that. Focus on how can I, and what I mean by that is, people are still tapping you out. you're still getting smashed. Focus on being better than you were, just a little bit, and that's going to pile up and pile up and pile up, and pretty soon you won't be thinking, why aren't I getting any better anymore? You're going to be thinking about, what can I improve on? Now what can I do to get, to grow, things like that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. The no expectation of end results goes hand in hand with that consistency. And I feel like that conversation takes place almost daily on the mat. How consistent are you? And sometimes I do feel, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but sometimes I feel like we are fooling ourselves that we are consistent with things. And I'm certainly guilty of that as well. It's the often excuse of, and it is excuse of, I'll take a day off today. I'll skip today. And all that is creating inconsistent pattern. Yeah. And that is leading to very different result. And the question is, how are you? So hypothetically, if let's just say our goal is to train 4 times a week, we have 7 days in a week. I take first 2 days, 3 days off. Now I have zero room for error, and shit comes up.
Right.
And now I'm missing another day, and this one is out of my control. And then often we come up with these reasonings. Well, the first 3 days I had to take because blah blah blah. Now this one was out of my control. Blah blah blah. So. Now we're getting into this pattern of complete inconsistency, and none of it was our fault. Right.
So what do you do? I see these people all the time. Then they show up to every class for 2 weeks, and then it's that once a week thing again.
Yeah,
right?
because
it happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
The schedule here just changed, right? So I decided I'm going to be here Mondays, Tuesdays. I'm usually here all day and all night on Wednesdays. I'm not training the whole time, but and Thursday was going to be my night off, right? I'm not going to come on Thursday. It's my family dynamic and schedule. It's like Thursday's a night to have off. And then every other Sunday because of that family dynamic. And I'm cutting out early tonight, right? Well, I'll be here tomorrow night instead. Now I'm not going to say I'm going to train twice as hard. But it's just like, okay, these are my 4 days. Day 3 got messed up. I'm going to come an extra day, and not an extra day. I'm going to fit in that same amount of time, right? This is my schedule. This is what I allowed myself, and this is what's going to happen. And there was a hiccup, but it's fixable. But it's very easy to be like, well, I got to leave early tonight, and I don't train on Thursdays. Right. Instead, I said, well, hey, sweetheart, I got to cut out early. Do you think maybe I can skip dinner tomorrow night with you? And of course, it's no big deal. Right. Don't make those excuses. I had somebody say to me on the mat, I want to be here all the time. I want to be here all the time. I feel like it's not clicking yet. And he's a new student and new to jiu-jitsu. And I was like, well, don't focus so much on that yet. Just keep showing up. If you can be here 3 days a week, be here 3 days a week. Don't get burnt out by showing up for everything and not getting better because it's not going to click. And then taking 3 weeks off.
Well, and that's,
so many people do that.
Well, I think that is bleeding or connecting directly to that high expectations of the result.
Yeah.
Because we are hyper focusing on where we want to be versus the amount of work that it takes to get there, right? And it's if we hyper focus on the end result, then we are trying to compensate for those errors that we've made in the past, which magnifies the inconsistency that we created on our own on the very beginning. Versus, the thought is create a very consistent schedule. Right? With some flexibility, but be very fair to yourself. Be very honest to yourself. Jiu-jitsu is not our profession for most of us. It's not our life for most of us, right? We have other things, careers, families, and kids, and other things that are important in our lives too. So having expectations of 7 times a week is unreasonable and probably unrealistic, right? Setting that to 2, 3, maybe 4, whatever your schedule allows, but then keep yourself accountable to it. Be here the days that you wanted to be here. You know, short of emergencies, short of things that you really cannot do, you know, then be here. Make that honest and you know, harsh decision to keep yourself accountable.
Yeah, accountability is a big part of it. I know I'm can get fairly inconsistent. And it's,
who do you think I was talking about the entire
you're
time?
talking directly to me. I know. you get, I'll go back to the new schedule. So, okay, I have these 7 days a week. I can theoretically make it to 6 days a week, right? But that means I'm not going to be having dinner with the family, you know, and things like that. So it's like, okay, well, let's be a little more realistic about it. And I'm going to make it these 4 days a week, and I'm going to be there those 4 days a week. Now, if something happens on one of those days, well, maybe I can pick one of those other 3. I can fit it in on one of those other 3, right? And instead of like doubling up and making, because I don't feel you progress. Then we're back to talking about that other student who thinks if he's here, you know, 15 classes in a 2-week period, he's somehow going to be as skilled or have the knowledge of somebody who's been going to 2 classes a week for 15 weeks. You know, it's just not going to happen. It doesn't. Jiu-jitsu doesn't work that way. I really don't think it does.
Well, and let's not forget that there are other ways of educating yourself than being on the mat.
Sure.
Being on the mat is probably the most important one, but you most definitely can educate yourself off the mat, and that should count for something, right? But many of us don't even do that, right? Sitting in front of TV and watching Netflix is not educating yourself, right? Or watching a jiu-jitsu movie.
Jiu-jitsu.
Well,
Yeah,
watching jiu-jitsu movie is not...
You're not going to learn anything from John Wick.
John Wick is not teaching you jiu-jitsu, right? But, you know, maybe perhaps spending 15 minutes, and I'm not kidding you, 15, 1-5, watching a constructive jiu-jitsu instructional could really bring you benefit. And I don't mean scrolling Instagram. I mean actually watching and educating yourself. All that is part of your education. All that is part of your success. You know, but again, hyper-focusing on the work, not on the end result, is definitely going to change the dynamic, how fast and how strong you are progressing in your jiu-jitsu journey. And this is not only applicable to jiu-jitsu, right? Whether you play checkers, skydiving, or doing whatever woodwork, whatever other skills that you're trying to learn is going to be the same thing. Playing a guitar, playing a piano is the same thing, is a consistency. Yeah. This is not jiu-jitsu related. This is education 101. Consistency of inquiring the knowledge and then cataloging it so you can recall it at the right time with the right efficiency is what's really going to set
practice it.
Absolutely.
You can't,
hands down.
You know, if you come to class and you learn 3 techniques and then you don't practice those 3 techniques till they come up in the curriculum again, well, you're probably not going to be very good at them. You're going to be relearning them again instead of finding out the nuance in it, the special little points in it that you didn't realize the first time. And so, you know, take the time to, you know, if I should look up the actual definition of process, because it'd probably be, make my point for me. But if you show up, like you said, consistently, and you work on those things that you learned instead of trying something new, your jiu-jitsu is going to get better. You're going to know that you're in the right spot. You won't have those questions, and you won't be focusing on that, on those particular outcomes that aren't happening and that are probably stressing you out. Oh, look at that.
Process.
I need my glasses. No, I don't.
A series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve particular end.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Or a summons requiring a person to appear in court.
Coincidentally,
I'm going to stick with the first one. Yeah.
Coincidentally, that showed up.
Yeah. But I mean, it, you know, it's right there. Just keep showing up. Keep Be consistent about it. Showing up 5 times one week, 1 time the next, and taking 2 weeks off, you're not going to get better.
And I think really, as we summarize this, as we come to the end of conversation on this topic, I think what really you should consider as a student, talking to your instructors, talking to your coaches. They have experiences. They've seen millions of times students being inconsistent. They know what it takes to be consistent. They should be more than happy to suggest how to create a consistency habits to set you for success as you're going through these hard times and as you're trying to develop these new skills, new habits, new schedules, whatever the case might be. They are there for you. So don't be afraid to reach out.
My instructor's kind of a jerk. Actually, he's a great guy, and if you ever have a question, he's happy to answer it for you. Oh,
yeah, that was me muting Gary. That was me muting.
You muted me right as I was complimenting you, though. So sorry. I guess everybody doesn't get to hear how great you are. So let's be consistent and do another one of these soon.
All right, sounds good.
All right, peace.
Later.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.